Hey, Bobby Manning here. Welcome to the Garden Report. The Celtics saved their season 116-99 on Josue Pavon's birthday.
That's right. I don't know. So maybe someone told him, Bobby. I don't know. Maybe they were like, come on, Josue.
He wanted to work another day.
Josue wants to keep working. Don't send him
Boston.
on vacation, guys. We got to win for him.
So there will be a Game 5 in Boston on Thursday. I'm going to tell you why I think there'll be a Game 7 in this series as well.
Okay.
Later on.
Game 7. All right.
How they got here, rough first half. They trailed at halftime. A lot of fouling in the first half, complaining to refs. Breakdowns on the defensive side of the ball continued. So you didn't feel great about them going into the second half. And even the first couple plays looked a little shaky. But you saw the Heat start missing. And they missed and missed and missed to start the third. Celtics finally found their offense. Tatum hit a pair of threes. Joe, I thought, called a great timeout with Brown trapped in the corner. And they came out of that timeout and scored. Tatum gave a great little speech to the guys who were coming back into the game, and then they just went on a roll, piling up stops, getting out in transition. Tatum had 33 off mostly transition runs in the second half, a few tough shots, but mostly easy looks because they were able to turn defense into offense.
Yeah.
CLNS Media's Celtics coverage is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win.
And that's when they're at their best. I mean, when we saw Jalen and Tatum going into halftime, single digits, kind of trying to find their offense, but also incorporate their teammates, I saw a little bit of a better performance overall in that first half, but you knew it wasn't going to be enough for them to win. And I remember when we did our video, I was just like, Bob, maybe one of these guys goes off. Someone needs to start making shots. And I felt like it was the other guys, right? Derek White hit a couple. Al Horford hit a couple who I expected him to bounce back in a big way in this game. And he didn't disappoint for sure. But it came down to the defense. I mean, putting together stops, especially after that first half with the Miami Heat, started to light things up from behind the arc. I mean, Jimmy Butler did his thing in the third quarter, but it wasn't enough for them to grab that big, significant lead in the fourth, which I feel like they've been faced with pretty much throughout this entire series. The Celtics are just their fourth quarter concerns, whatever you want to call it, mind block or whatever the Miami Heat had, that hold that they had on them, we didn't see that here in Game 4. And especially when we're talking about Jason Tatum, who finally put some points on the board, some fourth quarter points on the board for the first time this series. And of course, it came in a big way after that huge third quarter where the defense led to the offense and all of those three-pointers. I want to say they made 7 3-pointers in that third quarter. It was big.
Yeah, I think actually 10 in the second half to Miami's 3.
3 more, and then this is a quarter where Jimmy Butler scored 15. I mean, that's significant when you think about what those type of quarters historically throughout this series has meant for the Miami Heat. It's usually enough for them to create that significant gap where the Celtics really have a tough time of climbing out of in the fourth quarter.
We expected at some point the shooting would swing, and it did in the third there particularly. And the Celtics were able to drive a big lead off of it, but there's still a few mistakes in there, still a few miscues, moments where they put 2 on the ball defensively and let a roller break free, or fouling, I think, still an issue here to some degree. But the Heat just stopped hitting shots, and then you had this moment in the fourth, I think it was, where Gabe Vincent kind of comes up hobbled, steps to the sideline for a second, comes back into the game, and Tatum finds him right away and hits a 3 over him. Vincent's running to the locker room. I know you got the update that he's all right, but I think that moment showed, whether it's fatigue or injuries, I think Love, Vincent, and Strus are all dealing with a little something. Eric Spoelstra said today Tyler Hero is just starting the process of coming back from his injury. You really only have 5 reliable guys, I'd say, in that Heat rotation. That's excluding Zeller and Lowry, who I don't think have played well here. And even those 5 guys, be it Butlers and Bams and those guys, Caleb Martin continues to be great, looked a little tired in that second half. They slowed down, the shots stopped falling, and you really didn't see that pop offensively from Miami either. The Celtics flattened them out.
Yeah, that's encouraging for the Celtics. That's exactly what I was going to get into. I mean, like, that's the type of defense where you look at it, you look at each other in the mirror, and you're like, man, we're making a difference here. You know what I mean? Like, figuratively, right? I mean, I mean, that's the type of approach to the second half, especially in the fourth quarter, that's gonna secure wins. And look, you mentioned those 5 guys. I would say 4 out of those 5 guys could go off for 20-plus points. You know what I mean? That's happened this series, so that's huge. I mean, to stop those guys, again, I didn't have a good feeling in that first half when you saw Martin go 6 for 6 again. It was like the same thing that we saw in Game 3. And now what's even more encouraging going into Game 5 back in Boston is the likelihood of them doing that a third time. You know, Martin going 6 for 6, or whether it's Max going, 4 for 4 but from behind the arc. I mean, those type of performances, it's what's made a humongous difference on top of course, what we've seen from Bam Adebayo and what we're going to continue to see out of Jimmy Butler. So that's not going to stop. But if you take those guys out of their flow, out of their offensive production, when they're going off the way they tend to do, which the Celtics have just had trouble with containing, at least 4 or 5 of those guys. Kevin Love has been, productive for these guys, but not on that same level. I just think that's when the Celtics know they can go in for the kill and secure a win.
Staying together, the key for the Celtics. Jaylen Brown announced after the game that they had some sort of team meeting. The team meeting stays undefeated. Here's what he had to say about that.
What did this win mean to you guys as a group to fight the way you did?
Big win. Big win. Anytime you get the win in the playoffs, it means a lot. Definitely with our backs against the wall, we didn't want to go out like that. So we galvanized last night, and we all wanted to come out and win. And to be able to come out and execute and do it is big. So now we take it back home into the Garden and try to keep that and carry it on and try to get another win.
Sorry, Jaylen, a few people, you mentioned that you galvanized last night, and a few people asked you about that. Just to put some color on that, was this an organized team activity? You all bump into each other in a diner? Or just trying to get a sense on that. How did that all play out?
Just all together. I don't got to share no details. Just, we all, at some point during the day, yesterday, we was all together as a team, and we wanted to come out and do what we did tonight.
So great. Not much of an explanation there on what happened,
Good.
but they got together.
Keep it in-house. I like
looked
it.
each other in the eye and I guess had a tough conversation, as you like to say.
Maybe it was an uncomfortable conversation. Maybe it was just a vent session. Maybe it was a combination of the two. Either way, it clearly shows, now they're on the same page, or at least a better version of that Celtics team compared to what we saw in games 1 through 3. It was just a disconnect. That's the word that was constantly being, that's the way this thing's been phrased, right? Just the constant disconnect. And that locker room, look, Mazzulla, I don't think he's lost that locker room, but that disconnect was definitely the case throughout games 1 through 3. And hopefully they can take it up a notch in game 5 because they'll need it.
Can they keep it going? Because all things we've mentioned here, Tatum getting going, Brown figuring out things just a little bit, the passing game coming together, the defense ramping up.
Yeah.
Plus Miami growing a little thin, shooting coming back down to earth a little bit.
See, that's the key.
I think
that's what's key for Game 5.
I think this series could go the long haul, and teams are 0-150 down 3-0 for a reason. I don't see the Celtics knocking off 4 in a row here, but I do think you could see a 6, and I really do think 7-game series at this point.
Damn, Bobby's looking way ahead. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just one game at a time. I just feel like for something like that to happen, there's going to be a lot of plot twists and something like that, right? It's not going to be as easy as the Celtics just doing this over and over again. I think the Miami Heat are going to make adjustments. That's what Spoelstra's going to do. An experienced, respected coach like Eric Spoelstra will look at this film and will make adjustments to wrap up this series because he knows what the Celtics are capable of. He knows historically this thing hasn't happened in a sense of an NBA team coming back from a 3-0 hole, but he's not going to give the Celtics that opportunity.
Heat in 5?
I'm not going to say Heat in 5, but I think, again, if the Celtics do what they're supposed to do, and again, take it up a notch. I don't want to see the same thing that we saw in Game 4 in terms of what they look like on defense. It has to be for 4 quarters because, Jimmy going off for 15 in that third quarter, let's say a lot of those three-pointers or a few of those don't drop in the fourth, there would have been a little bit of wiggle room for the Miami Heat to come back there. But the Celtics, again, if they double down defensively and really create that big, significant lead early and sustain it, keep them at bay, I think, you'll see this thing go to 6 and potentially us back here in Miami this weekend.
I know Josue likes that. He in 5 doesn't matter. You just got hot for a night, and we're still going to be in the same place we talked about the other night. But you give yourself a chance for a 6, and I think you really do need to push this to 7 games and give yourself that coin toss flip to start having a different conversation than we've had so far here. But Celtics do play another night. There was one key adjustment I want to get into, and we'll talk about that in our next video. Celtics All Access. Subscribe right here for more coverage back in Boston, and CLNS Media for all the post-game coverage of this great Game 4 win tonight. Josue Pavon, Bobby Manning, and the Celtics force a Game 5.
This segment of the Garden Report is brought to you by Factor. Visit factormeals.com/garden50 to get 50% off your first box. This edition of the Garden Report is also brought to you by Athletic Greens. Visit athleticgreens.com/garden for a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase.